So, quick little random video today because I have a lot of stuff to do today. I do not have time to make a fully fledged long video like I usually get every day because guess what? I upload every single day on the channel. I just wanted to get on here really quick and talk about one of my favorite shows. A show that I have watched a gazillion times. And it's a show that I just recently finished my annual rewatch of. And yes, I said annual. I watch this show through every single year. Of course, I'm talking about Narcos, if you couldn't tell by this point, by the title and why you're here. Just in case you're interested of other shows I watch every single year, the other annual shows, of course, Breaking Bad, of course, Succession, and then I'll skim through Game of Thrones. There's a lot I'll skip through, so I won't watch all of it. But I do watch a little bit of Game of Thrones. And then you have Narcos. And when I say Narcos, I mean the first 3 seasons, not Narcos Mexico. Although I do enjoy the hell out of Narcos Mexico, I still think the first 3 seasons that cover drug trafficking in Colombia, as well as Pablo Escobar, I find those 3 seasons to be stronger and beautifully done. And to me, this is one of the best TV shows I have ever watched, and one that I feel like does not get enough credit that it should. And what I mean by that is I think this might be the best show Netflix has ever produced. People do not give it that kind of credit. So yeah, if you've never watched Narcos, what it essentially is the story of Pablo Escobar and the cops, the DEA agents, and the people in Colombia that took him down. We see Pablo's rise into becoming the greatest and biggest and most dangerous drug kingpin ever. This man who is a very complex character. This man who doesn't just want to make money, but he almost has this thing in him that makes him kind of like an Adolf Hitler-like figure. He wants power. He wants kind of influence, this control over his country, and because of that, he becomes more than just a drug trafficker. He sort of becomes this weird tyrant in Colombia, this weird tyrannical force of terror and murder and just horror. And Pablo Escobar throughout the first 2 seasons is played by Wagner Moura, and this is one of the best performances you will ever see. He is so committed to this role, and he can play up this character in a lot of different ways. There are times where Pablo Escobar is absolutely terrifying. You could feel why the men and the people of Colombia were terrified of him and were afraid of him, but he's also able to come across as this likable dude at times. There's scenes where you feel like, I get why people wanted to have a beer with him. It wasn't just the horror, it was the love as well. People hated him and feared him, but they also loved him, and that's what you see in pretty much every tyrant throughout history. Every tyrant in our history, and in Game of Thrones, which is where I kind of get this line from, leads with fear, and they also lead with undying love. Those are kind of the 2 things that go together to create the perfect leader and the perfect tyrant in a way. And Wagner Moura is unbelievable here. You also get the DEA agents, played brilliantly by Pedro Pascal and Boyd Holbrook. These guys have such great chemistry together as these 2 partners that are working in Colombia as DEA agents. They get their hands dirty sometimes as they're working with the Colombian police force and the president of Colombia, and they just are so good, especially Boyd Holbrook here, who gives my favorite performance of his career. He's so honest, and he feels so human, and you could feel that desire to catch Pablo as the series goes on. And Pedro Pascal, what can I say about him that hasn't been said a billion times? He is so good, and this is one of his best performances, one of his best roles. Yet again, just like Boyd Holbrook, he's this other guy that is just so obsessed with taking down Pablo, and in season 3, he really becomes the main star because Boyd Holbrook goes away, and it's mainly Pedro Pascal. The rest of the cast just does such a great job, and one of the best things this show does in the first 2 seasons is world building. It really sets you in Colombia and makes you feel like you're being transported into that country, into the culture of that country, the streets, how they're filmed, the production of it all, shooting on site. It's just all beautifully done. Then you have the ensemble of characters matched with the violence. This show is violent as all hell, which is what it needs to be because it's an honest telling of what had taken place, and to really get across the horrors that Pablo Escobar sort of brought to Colombia, you have to show it to the best of your ability, and this show does a damn good job of doing it. It also does a really good job of weaving history into this. It constantly reminds you that these are real things that pretty much happened almost, it's not completely honest to the situation, but it is pretty honest, and it gives you a clear idea of the history of this Pablo Escobar chase. And then you get to season 3, which is kind of like the perfect epilogue season. And what happens after Pablo Escobar? What happens when the gigantic tyrant, this big evil man, goes away? Well, you have this power vacuum that exists, and in Colombia and in real life, it was taken over by the Cali cartel, which was at the time the 2nd most powerful cartel in Colombia, which then became the #1 cartel in the world after Pablo fell. And it's such an engaging season that you really wouldn't expect to be as good as it is after losing Wagner Moura and losing the whole idea of Pablo Escobar, but it ends up being kind of the perfect little, period, the perfect little mark, checkpoint right on the series, the cherry on top to make it as good as it is, and it turns out to be one of my favorite shows I've ever watched. It's a powerful show that isn't just about gang violence and drug dealing, but it's just about the characters and how a tyrant like this can really weigh on the people trying to stop him. It's brutal, it's dangerous, and it's just a show that everybody should go watch. And you should go check out Narcos Mexico, because it's also pretty solid. But that's all I wanted to do today. I just wanted to talk about the show for a little bit. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I upload every single day. I'll see you in the next one.